The soft clinking of dishes and the gentle hum of conversation filled Bellini's Italian restaurant on a typical Tuesday evening. Among the servers weaving between tables was Anna, a woman in her late 20s with dark hair pulled back in a practical bun, her movements precise and unhurried as she balanced 3 steaming plates along her arm. "Here we are," she said, placing the dishes in front of an elderly couple who had been coming to Bellini's every Tuesday, for as long as she had worked there. "Eggplant parmesan for you, Mrs. Chen, and the seafood linguine for Mr. Chen. Can I get you anything else?" Mrs. Chen looked up at Anna with a warm smile. "Everything looks wonderful, dear. And remember, no rush tonight. We're celebrating our anniversary." Anna's face brightened. 43 years, right? Congratulations. I'll make sure Mr. Bellini knows. He might have something special for you. As Anna turned away, her smile remained, though it shifted slightly, taking on a wistful quality that no one in the restaurant would have noticed. She enjoyed these small connections with her regular customers. These glimpses into lives filled with the kind of lasting love and stability she had always hoped to find. Anna had been working at Bellini's for nearly 2 years now. To the patrons and her co-workers, she was simply the reliable waitress with the warm smile who remembered everyone's orders and never seemed to write anything down. She knew which tables wanted extra bread before their meals, which customers preferred their water without ice, and which ones would likely want dessert menus without having to ask. "Table 12 is asking for you specifically," said Diane, another server, as they passed each other near the kitchen entrance. "It's those college professors again. I think they've adopted you." Anna nodded with a small laugh. "They're sweet. The older gentleman is teaching his granddaughter to play chess using the checkered napkins. What none of them knew, not Diane, not the Chen couple celebrating their anniversary, not the college professors, not even Mr. Bellini himself, was that before moving to this small town, Anna had been Anna Sokolova, a promising piano student at the prestigious Eastman School of Music. Few people here would have connected the quiet, efficient waitress with the young woman whose recitals had once drawn standing-room-only crowds in Rochester. As the evening continued, Anna moved through her familiar routine. Take orders, deliver food, refill drinks, clear plates, bring dessert menus, process payments. The rhythm of restaurant work had its own kind of music. Not the complex harmonies and emotional depth she once inhabited, but a simple, predictable melody that carried her through each day. Around 9 o'clock, as the dinner rush began to slow, Anna noticed a man sitting alone at a corner table. He wasn't one of her regulars, and something about the way he sat, slightly hunched, eyes darting occasionally to his watch, caught her attention. When she approached his table, she noticed sheet music peeking out from his messenger bag. "Have you decided on dessert?" she asked, setting down his espresso. The man looked up, seeming slightly startled, as if pulled from deep thought. "No, thank you. Just the check when you have a moment." His accent was faint but unmistakable to her trained ear. Eastern European, possibly Czech or Slovak. Anna nodded and turned to leave, but curiosity got the better of her. "Are you a musician?" she asked, gesturing to the visible corner of the sheet music. The man followed her gaze and smiled slightly. "Yes, I teach at the community college. Piano, primarily." Anna felt a familiar tightening in her chest, a sensation that always accompanied any mention of the instrument that had once been the center of her world. "That's wonderful," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "We have a piano here, actually." She nodded toward the vintage grand piano that sat in the corner of the dining room, more of a decorative piece than a functional instrument. "Mr. Bellini says it belonged to his grandmother. I don't think it's been tuned in years, though." The man's eyes lit up. "A Steinway Model B, if I'm not mistaken. Beautiful instrument, even if neglected." Anna felt a surprising urge to tell this stranger about her past, about the hours she had spent at pianos just like that one, about the way her fingers sometimes still moved in her sleep, playing phantom melodies. Instead, she simply smiled and went to get his check. Later that night, after the last customers had left and the cleaning was done, Anna stood in the empty dining room. Most of the lights were off, leaving the restaurant in a gentle half-darkness. Mr. Bellini was in his office doing the night's accounting, and the kitchen staff had already gone home. This was her favorite time at Bellini's, the quiet moments after closing when she could be alone with her thoughts. Almost without realizing what she was doing, Anna found herself walking toward the piano in the corner. It had been covered with a deep burgundy cloth to protect it from dust, and she carefully pulled this away, folding it and setting it on a nearby chair. The wood was dark and glossy, showing its age in tiny scratches and small areas where the varnish had worn thin, but it was still beautiful. Anna sat on the bench, adjusting it slightly by habit. She lifted the fallboard that covered the keys, revealing ivory that had yellowed with age. For a long moment she simply looked at them, these familiar black and white shapes that had once been an extension of her own hands. She pressed middle C lightly, wincing at the slightly flat tone that resulted. The piano teacher had been right. It was badly in need of tuning. And yet, there was still something magical about the sound, about the way it resonated in the empty restaurant. Anna closed her eyes and let her fingers rest lightly on the keys without pressing them. In her mind, she could hear Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, the piece she had played for her conservatory audition all those years ago. She could still feel every dynamic change, every subtle shift in tempo, the way the melody floated above the gentle accompaniment of the left hand. "I didn't know you played." Anna's eyes snapped open, and she quickly pulled her hands away from the keys as if they had suddenly become hot to the touch. Mr. Bellini stood a few feet away, his reading glasses pushed up on his forehead, looking at her with curiosity. "I don't," Anna began, then stopped herself. "I mean, I used to. A long time ago." Mr. Bellini moved closer, his expression thoughtful. "You looked very natural sitting there, like you belonged." Anna stood up, smoothing her apron nervously. "I'm sorry if I overstepped by uncovering the piano." "Not at all," Mr. Bellini said, waving away her concern. "That piano should be played. My Nonna would be rolling in her grave knowing it sits here gathering dust." He paused, studying her face. "Why don't you play something?" Anna shook her head quickly. "Oh no, I couldn't. It's been years and the piano needs tuning and—" "Just one song," Mr. Bellini urged gently. "An old man's request." Anna looked at the piano, feeling the pull of it like gravity. It had been 3 years since she had played on a real piano, not since she had been forced to sell her upright before moving here. At home, she had only a small electronic keyboard, its plastic keys a poor substitute for the real thing. With a deep breath, Anna sat back down. Her heart was racing, and she felt a slight tremor in her hands, a sensation she had never experienced in her years of performing. She placed her fingers on the keys again, and after another moment of hesitation began to play. She chose Debussy's Clair de Lune, a piece that had always brought her comfort. The first few notes were tentative, her fingers remembering their way slowly. But soon muscle memory took over and the music began to flow more naturally. Despite the piano's imperfect tuning, the piece's dreamy quality filled the restaurant. Anna felt herself relaxing into the music, her body swaying slightly with the gentle rhythm. When she finished, the final notes lingering in the air, she realized her cheeks were wet. She quickly wiped away the tears, embarrassed to have shown such emotion in front of her employer. Mr. Bellini was silent for a long moment. When Anna finally gathered the courage to look at him, she saw that his eyes too were glistening. "Where did you learn to play like that?" he asked softly. Anna sighed, feeling as if a door she had kept firmly shut was now creaking open. "I studied at Eastman. I was going to be a concert pianist. What happened?" The question was simple, but the answer was not. How could she explain the phone call about her mother's illness, the mounting medical bills, the impossible choice between her education and her family's needs? How could she describe the way her heart had broken when she had withdrawn from school, packed up her apartment, and returned home to become a full-time caregiver? "Life happened," she said finally, closing the fallboard gently. Mr. Bellini nodded, seeming to understand all she wasn't saying. "Well, life has a way of taking unexpected turns. My Nonna used to say that talent never truly disappears. It just waits for the right moment to show itself again." Anna stood up and replaced the burgundy cloth over the piano. "Maybe," she said, though she didn't really believe it. She had made her choice 3 years ago, trading her musical ambitions for the practical reality of steady work and a predictable life. The path back to who she had been, to conservatories and concert halls and a life devoted to music, seemed permanently closed to her now. "I should go," she said, gathering her bag from behind the counter. "Early shift tomorrow." As she walked home through the quiet streets of the small town, Anna couldn't help but think about how the piano had felt under her fingers, so different from her cheap keyboard. For just a few minutes she had remembered what it was like to lose herself in music, to feel the pure joy of creation. In her small apartment, Anna flicked on the lights and set her keys on the counter. Her gaze immediately went to the corner where her keyboard sat on a folding table, a poor substitute for the instrument she had played tonight. She touched the plastic keys lightly, hearing the Debussy piece in her mind. Perhaps Mr. Bellini was right. Perhaps talent never truly disappeared. But opportunity, that was a different matter entirely. And Anna had learned the hard way that sometimes, no matter how much passion or potential you had, life made choices for you that couldn't be undone. Still, as she got ready for bed, Anna found herself humming, her fingers playing invisible keys against her leg. And for the first time in a very long while, she fell asleep thinking not about tomorrow's shift or bills to be paid, but about music, about the pieces she had once loved, and about the way it had felt to bring them to life again, if only for a moment, in an empty restaurant after hours. 2 weeks passed since Anna had played the old Steinway after hours, and though Mr. Bellini never mentioned it again, something had shifted. She would occasionally catch him watching her with a thoughtful expression, and twice she noticed that the burgundy cloth had been removed from the piano during business hours, as if inviting someone to play. Anna did her best to ignore these changes, focusing instead on the rhythm of her days. Wake up, go to work, smile at customers, come home, sleep, repeat. Sometimes she would play her keyboard, but the memory of the grand piano's rich tone made the plastic keys feel even more hollow than before. On a rainy Thursday morning, Anna arrived at Bellini's earlier than usual. The restaurant wouldn't open for lunch service for another hour, but she had forgotten to restock the napkin holders the night before and wanted to take care of it before Mr. Bellini noticed. As she pushed through the back door, she was surprised to hear voices coming from the dining room. Curious, she set down her umbrella and peeked around the corner. Mr. Bellini was standing next to the grand piano, deep in conversation with an older man in a tweed jacket. Between them stood a younger man with tools spread out on a small cloth on top of the piano. The action is still good, surprisingly, the younger man was saying, but it needs a complete tuning and a few of the hammers will need to be replaced. Whatever it needs, Mr. Bellini replied. I want it in perfect condition by next Friday. Anna must have made some small noise because Mr. Bellini turned and spotted her. Anna. Come in. I want you to meet someone. Feeling awkward, Anna stepped into the dining room. Her hair was damp from the rain and she hadn't expected to see anyone but the kitchen staff this early. This is Dr. Novak, Mr. Bellini said, gesturing to the older man in tweed. He teaches music at the community college. And this is Tyler, the best piano technician in 3 counties. Anna shook hands with both men, a sense of unease growing in her stomach. The piano teacher from the other night. That's who Dr. Novak was. She remembered his accent, the sheet music in his bag. Mr. Bellini tells me you studied at Eastman, Dr. Novak said, his eyes bright with interest. That's quite impressive. Anna shot a quick look at her boss, who merely shrugged, not appearing the least bit apologetic for sharing her personal information. It was a long time ago, Anna said, tucking a strand of damp hair behind her ear. If you'll excuse me, I need to get ready for my shift. She hurried to the back, her heart pounding. Why was Mr. Bellini having the piano restored? And why had he told Dr. Novak about her past? The thought of others knowing, of having to explain or answer questions, made her palms sweat. Throughout her shift, Anna found it hard to concentrate. She mixed up orders twice, something she never did, and nearly collided with Diane while carrying a tray of water glasses. All the while, Tyler worked on the piano, the occasional discordant notes jarring against the lunch crowd's conversation. When there was finally a lull, Mr. Bellini motioned her over to his usual spot near the bar. You seem upset, he said, his tone gentle. Anna took a deep breath. Why did you tell that man about me? About Eastman? Mr. Bellini sighed. Because talent like yours shouldn't be hidden away, Anna. Not when there might be opportunities. Opportunities? Anna repeated, confused. The college is hosting a charity concert next month. Dr. Novak is looking for performers. Mr. Bellini folded his arms across his chest. I thought of you immediately. Anna shook her head. No, absolutely not. I haven't performed in years. I don't even practice regularly anymore. Which is why I'm having the piano fixed, Mr. Bellini said. as if it were the most logical thing in the world. You can practice here before or after shifts. Anna stared at him, speechless. The idea of performing again after all this time was terrifying. What if she failed? What if all those years of training had faded away, leaving her with nothing but embarrassment? I appreciate what you're trying to do, she said finally. But my life is different now. I'm not that person anymore. Mr. Bellini's expression softened. The girl I heard playing Claire de Lune didn't sound like someone whose life was over. She sounded like someone who was finally coming back to life. Before Anna could respond, a new group of customers entered, and she hurried away, grateful for the interruption. But Mr. Bellini's words stayed with her, an echo she couldn't quite silence. For the next week, Anna watched as Tyler worked on the piano, sometimes staying until closing to make adjustments. Each day the sound improved, notes becoming clearer, more resonant. She found herself making excuses to pass by, listening as he played test scales and short musical phrases. On Tuesday night, Tyler announced he was finished. After the restaurant closed, Mr. Bellini insisted that Anna be the first to play it. I'm not dressed for a performance, she protested weakly, gesturing at her work clothes. It's just us, Mr. Bellini said. Consider it a test run. The restaurant was empty except for them. Even Diane and the kitchen staff had gone home. Reluctantly, Anna sat at the bench, adjusting it slightly. The keys were clean now, the ivory polished. She placed her hands on them, feeling their cool smoothness. Almost without thinking, she began to play the Debussy piece again, the one Mr. Bellini had heard before. The difference was astonishing. Each note rang true, the pedals responded perfectly, and the sound filled the room with a richness that nearly brought tears to her eyes. She played the entire piece, losing herself in the music in a way she hadn't done in years. When she finished, she looked up to find not just Mr. Bellini watching, but Dr. Novak as well, standing in the doorway with an expression of profound appreciation. Beautiful, Dr. Novak said quietly. Absolutely beautiful. Anna felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment and something else. Pride, perhaps, a feeling she had almost forgotten. The concert is in 3 weeks, Dr. Novak continued. We would be honored if you would consider playing. Just one piece, that's all I ask. Anna looked down at her hands resting on the keys. 3 years ago, she would have jumped at the chance. Now the thought filled her with a mixture of longing and dread. I don't know, she said honestly. Sleep on it, Dr. Novak suggested. The piano will be here whenever you're ready. After they left, Anna remained at the bench, playing softly, rediscovering the joy of a responsive instrument. She stayed far longer than she had intended, only realizing the time when she noticed the first hint of dawn through the windows. The next day, flyers appeared around the restaurant announcing the charity concert. Proceeds to benefit the Children's Hospital Music Therapy Program, they read. Anna felt a tug at her heart. Her mother had received music therapy during her illness, and Anna had seen firsthand how it had brought comfort during the worst days. That afternoon, during her break, she found herself sitting at the piano again, this time playing through scales and exercises, warming up muscles that had grown lazy with disuse. Her fingers were slower than they once had been, and she made mistakes that would have horrified her former teachers. But underneath the rust, the foundation remained. For the next week, Anna established a new routine. She arrived at the restaurant 2 hours before her shift to practice, and often stayed after closing as well. Mr. Bellini gave her a key so she could come and go as needed, and she took full advantage of his generosity. Customers began to notice the piano's transformation. Will someone be playing soon? They would ask, and Mr. Bellini would smile mysteriously. Anna hadn't yet committed to the concert, but she found herself selecting potential pieces anyway. The Debussy was an obvious choice, but she also worked on a Chopin nocturne and a Bach prelude, testing which felt most comfortable under her fingers. One evening, as she was practicing a particularly difficult passage from the Chopin, she looked up to find the elderly couple, the Chens, watching her from the doorway. We heard music and couldn't resist, Mrs. Chen explained. We had no idea you played so beautifully. I'm just practicing, Anna said, embarrassed to have been caught. For the concert? Mr. Chen asked. We saw the flyers, Anna hesitated. I haven't decided yet. Mrs. Chen approached the piano, her eyes kind. You know, when I was young, I wanted to be a dancer, ballet. But my parents couldn't afford lessons, and then life happened. marriage, children, work. I always wondered what might have been if I had found my way back to it. Anna didn't know how to respond. Mrs. Chen patted her hand gently. Don't waste a second chance if it's offered to you, she said softly. They're rare enough in this life. After the Chens left, Anna sat at the piano for a long time, not playing, just thinking. The past 3 years had been about survival, about putting one foot in front of the other each day. She had locked away the part of herself that loved music, that thrived on the challenge and emotion of playing, believing it was a necessary sacrifice. But what if it wasn't? What if, as Mrs. Chen suggested, this was a second chance, not to reclaim her old dreams exactly, but to find a new path that included the things she loved most? The following morning, Anna arrived at Bellini's to find Dr. Novak waiting for her. He had a folder of sheet music and a hopeful expression. Have you decided? He asked without preamble. Anna took a deep breath. The fear was still there. Fear of failure, fear of opening old wounds, fear of hope itself. But alongside it was a growing sense of possibility that she hadn't felt in years. One piece, she said finally. Just one. Dr. Novak's face broke into a wide smile. Wonderful.
What will you play?
Anna thought about it for a moment. Claire de Lune, she decided. It seems fitting. As Dr. Novak made notes about the program order, Anna felt a curious lightness in her chest. She was terrified, yes, but also excited in a way she hadn't been in a long time. That night, as she practiced, each note felt like both an ending and a beginning, the closing of one chapter of her life and the opening of another. Whatever happened at the concert, she had already taken the most important step simply by saying yes. And for the first time in 3 years, when Anna left the restaurant and walked home under a sky full of stars, she didn't feel like she was merely existing. She felt finally like she was living again. The charity concert was just 10 days away, and Anna felt like she was living 2 separate lives. During her shifts at Bellini's, she was still the efficient, friendly waitress everyone knew. But before opening and after closing, she transformed into the musician she had once been, losing herself in practice sessions that stretched for hours. Her hands were beginning to remember their old strength and flexibility. The muscle memory was returning, bringing with it both joy and a deep ache for what she had given up. Some mornings she woke with melodies playing in her head, fragments of pieces she had once known by heart now fighting their way back to the surface of her consciousness. On Friday afternoon, Anna arrived at the restaurant to find a small package waiting for her behind the counter. Special delivery, Diane said with a curious look. Mr. Bellini said to give it to you as soon as you came in. Anna opened the package carefully. Inside was a small bottle of hand cream specifically designed for pianists, along with a note in Mr. Bellini's distinctive handwriting. For those hard-working hands. The thoughtfulness of the gesture brought unexpected tears to her eyes. She quickly wiped them away before Diane could notice. Thanks, she said, tucking the bottle into her bag. I should start setting up for dinner service. As they worked side by side folding napkins, Diane cleared her throat. So the concert. Are you nervous? Anna looked up in surprise. She hadn't told anyone at work except Mr. Bellini about her decision to perform. Diane laughed at her expression. Small town, remember? Dr. Novak's wife teaches with my sister at the elementary school. Word gets around, Anna sighed. Of course it does. I think it's amazing, Diane continued. All this time you've been hiding this whole other life from us. It's like finding out Clark Kent is actually Superman. Hardly, Anna said, feeling her cheeks flush. And I wasn't hiding anything. It just wasn't relevant anymore. Diane stopped folding and looked at her directly. Well, I've already bought my ticket. Front row. Anna felt a flutter of panic. You don't have to do that. Are you kidding? And miss seeing you in action? Not a chance. Throughout her shift, Anna found herself distracted by thoughts of the performance. What if she made a mistake? What if her skills had deteriorated more than she realized? What if everyone was disappointed? Mr. Bellini, Dr. Novak, Diane, the Chens, all these people who suddenly seemed to be investing so much hope in her. That night, after everyone had gone, Anna sat at the piano and played through Claire de Lune for what felt like the 100th time. The piece was coming along well, but something was missing. The notes were all there, the dynamics were correct, but it felt mechanical somehow, as if she were simply going through the motions. Frustrated, she stopped midway through and let her hands rest in her lap. What was wrong with her? This used to come so naturally. You're thinking too much. The voice startled her. Anna turned to find Mr. Bellini standing in the doorway, still wearing his coat as if he had just returned to the restaurant. I thought you'd gone home hours ago, she said. He shrugged. I forgot some paperwork. But I'm glad I came back. He walked over and sat at a nearby table. Play it again. I'll listen. Anna hesitated, then turned back to the piano. She began the piece once more, acutely aware of Mr. Bellini's presence. The first few measures felt stiff, her fingers moving with deliberate precision rather than natural flow. Stop, Mr. Bellini said after less than a minute. You're playing it like it's a math problem to be solved. Like you're afraid of making a mistake. Anna's hands froze above the keys. He was right, of course. She had been so focused on playing it perfectly that she had forgotten to play it with feeling. When you played that first night, after everyone had gone, Mr. Bellini continued, you weren't thinking about technique or worrying about hitting the wrong notes. You were just playing from your heart. That was different, Anna said. No one was listening then. I was, Mr. Bellini reminded her. And soon others will be. But that doesn't change the music, Anna. It doesn't change what it means to you. He stood up and approached the piano, resting one hand on its polished surface. My grandmother used to say that music is not in the instrument or even in the notes on the page. It's in the space between the pianist's heart and the listener's. That's where the magic happens. Anna looked up at him, this kind man who had somehow seen something in her that she had thought was gone forever. I'm scared, she admitted quietly. Mr. Bellini nodded. Good. That means it matters to you. He patted her shoulder gently. Now play it again, but this time close your eyes. Don't think about the audience or the concert or even about getting it right. Just remember why you fell in love with this piece in the first place. Anna took a deep breath and closed her eyes. She thought back to the first time she had heard Claire de Lune, sitting in her childhood living room while her mother played an old recording. She remembered the way the music had seemed to paint pictures in her mind. Moonlight on water, soft breezes through trees, the gentle rise and fall of someone breathing in sleep. She began to play again, and this time something shifted. The notes flowed more naturally, each phrase connecting to the next like sentences in a conversation. She found herself swaying slightly with the music, her body remembering how to move with the rhythm rather than against it. When she finished, she opened her eyes to find Mr. Bellini smiling. There she is, he said softly. There's the musician I heard that first night. The following days passed in a blur of practice and preparation. Dr. Novak came by twice to listen to her play and offer gentle suggestions. Anna found herself enjoying these impromptu lessons, remembering the satisfaction of refining a piece under the guidance of someone who understood its intricacies. Word about her performance continued to spread through town. Regular customers at Bellini's would sometimes mention it, expressing surprise and delight at discovering her hidden talent. Anna found these interactions both flattering and uncomfortable. She wasn't used to being the center of attention. You should wear something special for the concert, Diane suggested during a slow lunch shift, something that makes you feel like a performer, not a waitress. Anna hadn't even thought about what she would wear. At Eastman, she had owned a few formal dresses specifically for recitals, but those had been sold years ago, along with most of her other possessions when she had needed money for her mother's care. I don't really have anything appropriate, she admitted. Diane's eyes lit up. I have the perfect dress. Navy blue, simple but elegant. We're about the same size. You have to try it on. Before Anna could protest, Diane had made arrangements to bring the dress to work the next day. The dress, as it turned out, was indeed perfect. Modest yet sophisticated, with 3/4 sleeves and a flowing skirt that moved beautifully when Anna walked. When she tried it on in the restaurant's small employee bathroom, she hardly recognized herself in the mirror. It's settled, Diane declared when Anna emerged. The dress is yours for the concert. Anna touched the soft fabric gratefully. Thank you. Really? 3 days before the concert, Anna received an unexpected visitor at the restaurant. She was in the middle of her afternoon practice session when she heard the back door open. Assuming it was Mr. Bellini or one of the kitchen staff arriving early, she continued playing. You always did make that piece sound like it was written for you. Anna's hands jerked away from the keys as if burned. She knew that voice, though she hadn't heard it in years. Slowly, she turned on the bench. Standing in the doorway was Luis, her former piano professor from Eastman. His hair had more gray in it now, and he wore glasses she didn't remember. But his posture was unmistakable. Straight-backed, head slightly tilted, as if he were perpetually listening for a wrong note. "Professor Rivera," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What are you doing here?" He stepped further into the room, his eyes moving from her to the piano and back again. "Dr. Novak is an old friend. When he told me one of my former students was performing at his charity concert, I had to come see for myself." He smiled slightly. "Though I admit I didn't expect to find you here in a restaurant." Anna stood up, suddenly conscious of her waitress uniform, the practical shoes, the name tag pinned to her shirt. She felt exposed, as if he could see all the ways in which she had failed to become the musician he had once believed she could be. "Life took an unexpected turn," she said simply. Professor Rivera nodded. "It often does." He gestured to the piano. "May I?" Anna stepped aside and he sat at the bench, adjusting it slightly. Without preamble, he began to play. Not Debussy, but a Chopin etude that Anna remembered working on with him during her second year. His technique was as flawless as ever, his interpretation both technically precise and emotionally rich. When he finished, he remained seated, looking at the keys thoughtfully. "You know, I always wondered what happened to you. One day you were one of my most promising students, and the next you were gone." No explanation, no goodbye. Anna felt a rush of shame. She had left without telling anyone, too overwhelmed by her mother's diagnosis and the sudden financial burden to face her teachers or classmates. "My mother got sick," she said. "Cancer. I had to go home, take care of her. There were medical bills and—" She trailed off, the old guilt and grief rising in her throat. Professor Rivera's expression softened. "I'm sorry to hear that. How is she now?" "She passed away 2 years ago." He nodded, a small, respectful acknowledgement of her loss. "And yet here you are, playing again." "Just for this one concert," Anna clarified quickly. "It's for charity, children's music therapy." It seemed important. Professor Rivera studied her for a moment, then stood up from the bench. "Would you play for me?" "What you're preparing for the concert." Anna hesitated, then sat down at the piano again. Playing for Professor Rivera had always been intimidating. His standards were legendarily high, his criticism precise and unflinching. But there had also been moments of rare praise from him that had meant more to her than standing ovations from packed concert halls. Taking a deep breath, she began to play Claire de Lune once more. She tried to focus on the music rather than on Professor Rivera's presence, to remember what Mr. Bellini had said about playing from the heart, but she could feel herself tensing, her fingers becoming less fluid, her interpretation more cautious. When she finished, she kept her eyes on the keys, afraid to look up and see disappointment on her former teacher's face. "You're holding back," he said after a moment. "Protecting yourself." Anna finally looked at him. "I'm out of practice." "That's not what I mean." He leaned against the piano, his expression serious. "You're playing like someone who's afraid to fully commit to the music. Like someone who has one foot out the door, ready to run if things get too intense." He paused. "Is that how you've been living these past few years? One foot out the door?" The question hit Anna like a physical blow. Was that what she had been doing? Keeping herself at a safe distance from anything that might hurt her again. Music, relationships, dreams of any kind? Before she could respond, Professor Rivera straightened up. "The technique will come back with practice. But the willingness to be vulnerable, to put your whole self into the music, that's a choice you have to make." He picked up his coat from where he had draped it over a chair. "I'll see you at the concert, Anna. Don't hold back." After he left, Anna remained at the piano for a long time, his words echoing in her mind. Don't hold back. Was she capable of that anymore? Of giving herself completely to the music the way she once had? She wasn't sure. But as she began to play again, she made a silent promise to try. The day of the charity concert arrived with unexpected sunshine after a week of rain. Anna woke early, her stomach tight with a mixture of excitement and dread. She had barely slept, her mind replaying Professor Rivera's words over and over. Don't hold back. For the first time in years, Anna called into work. Mr. Bellini had offered to give her the day off, but she had initially refused, thinking that keeping to her normal routine would help calm her nerves. Now, as the reality of the evening ahead settled over her, she realized she needed time to prepare both mentally and physically. She spent the morning at home, drinking tea and going through the piece in her head, visualizing her fingers moving over the keys. This was a technique her first piano teacher had taught her when she was just a child. Play the music in your mind before you play it with your hands. Around noon, Anna tried to eat something, but food held little appeal. She settled for toast and more tea, then laid out Diane's navy dress on her bed, alongside a pair of simple black flats, the closest thing she had to formal shoes. A small velvet pouch sat on her nightstand. Anna picked it up and carefully emptied its contents into her palm, a delicate silver bracelet with a tiny piano charm. It had been a gift from her mother when Anna had been accepted to Eastman. She hadn't worn it since leaving the conservatory, but today felt right. The concert was scheduled for 7 o'clock at the community college's recital hall. Dr. Novak had asked performers to arrive by 6 for a brief sound check. Anna had arranged to meet Diane at the restaurant at 5:30, since Diane had insisted on driving her to the venue. As Anna dressed, she caught glimpses of herself in the mirror, a woman she barely recognized. The navy dress transformed her, making her look more like the serious music student she had once been than the waitress she had become. She swept her hair up into a simple knot, applied a touch of makeup, and fastened the bracelet around her wrist. When she arrived at Bellini's, she found not just Diane waiting, but Mr. Bellini as well, dressed in a suit she had never seen him wear before. "You look beautiful," Diane said, giving her a quick hug, "like a real concert pianist." "I was a real concert pianist," Anna replied with a small smile, then immediately regretted how it sounded. "I mean, we know what you mean," Mr. Bellini said kindly. "And tonight everyone else will know too." He held out a small bouquet of white roses. "For after your performance. It's tradition." Anna took the flowers, touched by his thoughtfulness. "Thank you for everything." The drive to the college was mostly silent. Anna stared out the window, watching the familiar streets of the small town pass by. How strange that a place she had initially seen as merely a stopping point, somewhere to regroup after her mother's death, had somehow become the setting for her return to music. The college campus was busier than Anna had expected, with people already arriving for the concert despite the early hour. Dr. Novak met them at the entrance to the music building, his face lighting up when he saw Anna. "There she is, our mystery pianist." He ushered them inside, explaining that Anna would be performing second to last in the program. "A place of honor," he assured her. The backstage area was a flurry of activity, students moving chairs and music stands, other performers warming up or reviewing their music. Anna felt out of place among them, most of whom seemed to know each other. She stood awkwardly to one side, clutching her small purse. "Anna." She turned to see Professor Rivera approaching, dressed formally in a dark suit. He looked more like he was about to conduct a major orchestra than attend a small-town charity concert. "Professor," she greeted him, her mouth suddenly dry. "How are you feeling?" he asked. Anna considered lying, saying she was fine, but the concern in his eyes made her opt for honesty. "Terrified," she admitted. "I haven't performed in front of an audience in years." He nodded. "Fear is natural. Even the greatest performers feel it. The question is whether you let it diminish you or fuel you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I brought something for you." Anna took it curiously. It was a program from a student recital at Eastman, dated from her second year. Her name was listed among the performers with Debussy's Clair de Lune as her piece. "You've played this before an audience and moved them to tears," Professor Rivera said quietly. "You can do it again." Anna stared at the program, memories flooding back, the anticipation, the focused calm that would come over her just before walking on stage, the connection she would feel with the audience as she played. She had loved performing once. Not for the applause, but for those moments when she could feel that she was communicating something true and beautiful through the music. "Thank you," she said, carefully folding the program and placing it in her purse. "I'll try to remember that." Dr. Novak appeared, clapping his hands to get everyone's attention. 10 minutes until we begin, everyone." "Performers, please take your seats in the reserved section in the front row." Anna followed the other musicians into the hall, which was nearly full now. She scanned the crowd and spotted Diane and Mr. Bellini sitting together about halfway back. Diane waved excitedly when she caught Anna's eye. To her surprise, Anna also recognized many of the faces in the audience, regular customers from Bellini's, including the Chens in their Sunday best, sitting near the front. Had everyone from the restaurant come to see her play? The concert began with a welcome from Dr. Novak, who explained that all proceeds would go to the Children's Hospital Music Therapy Program. He spoke movingly about the power of music to heal, to comfort, to give voice to emotions that words couldn't express. Tonight, he concluded, we're not just raising money for a worthy cause. We're celebrating the profound impact that music has on all our lives. Anna found herself nodding along with his words. How had she forgotten that? How had she let music become something distant, a painful reminder of what she had lost rather than a source of strength and joy? The performances began. A string quartet of high school students, a tenor from the college choir, a flautist who taught at the elementary school. Anna watched them all, impressed by the level of talent in this small community. As each performer took their turn, her nervousness intensified. They all seemed so prepared, so confident. Halfway through the program, there was a brief intermission. Anna stayed in her seat, afraid that if she moved, her legs might give out. Professor Rivera sat down beside her. Breathe, he instructed. You're turning blue. Anna let out a laugh that was half sob, then took a deep breath. I don't know if I can do this. Of course you can, he said matter-of-factly. The question is whether you will allow yourself to. Before she could ask what he meant, the intermission was over, and the second half of the concert began. Anna's pulse quickened with each performance, knowing her turn was drawing closer. Finally, the violinist before her finished his piece and bowed to enthusiastic applause. Dr. Novak returned to the microphone. Our next performer is someone special, he began. Many of you may know her as a waitress at Bellini's Italian restaurant. A murmur of recognition went through the crowd. What you may not know is that before coming to our town, she was a student at one of the finest music conservatories in the country. Tonight, she returns to the piano after several years away. Please welcome Anna Sokolova performing Claude Debussy's Clair de Lune. The applause was warm as Anna rose from her seat. Her legs felt wooden as she walked to the Steinway grand piano at the center of the stage. She adjusted the bench, then sat, taking a moment to settle herself before placing her hands on the keys. The hall fell silent, that special kind of silence that comes before music begins. Anna closed her eyes briefly, remembering Professor Rivera's advice not to hold back, Mr. Bellini's words about playing from the heart, and her own promise to try. She began to play, the familiar opening notes of Clair de Lune floating out into the hushed space. At first, her fingers felt stiff, and she was acutely aware of every eye on her, every ear listening for mistakes. The first minute passed in a blur of concentration and anxiety. But then something shifted. Perhaps it was the quality of the silence from the audience, a silence that felt attentive, appreciative. Perhaps it was the memory of playing this piece for her mother during her illness, the way the music had seemed to ease her pain, if only for a few minutes. Or perhaps it was simply the music itself, the inherent beauty of Debussy's composition finally breaking through Anna's self-consciousness. Whatever the cause, Anna felt herself letting go, of her fear, of her perfectionism, of the grief and guilt that had kept her from music for so long. Her body relaxed, her breathing deepened, and the music began to flow through her rather than from her. As she reached the middle section of the piece, where the melody rises and the harmonies grow more complex, Anna found herself swaying slightly with the rhythmic pulse, completely absorbed in the moment. The piano responded to her touch as if it were an extension of her own body, each note precisely what she intended, each phrase shaped with care and feeling. The final section of Clair de Lune is a gradual descent, a return to the gentle mood of the beginning, but transformed by all that has come before. As Anna played these concluding measures, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in years. The final notes hung in the air like a benediction. For a moment after she finished, the hall remained completely silent. Anna sat still, her hands resting lightly on the keys, almost afraid to break the spell that seemed to have fallen over the room. Then the applause began, tentative at first, then growing in strength until it filled the hall. Anna finally looked up at the audience and saw faces shining with emotion. Mr. Bellini was on his feet, clapping vigorously. Diane was wiping tears from her cheeks. Even Professor Rivera was applauding with an intensity that spoke volumes. Anna stood and bowed, her heart pounding with a different kind of adrenaline now. Not fear, but exhilaration. As she made her way back to her seat, she caught sight of Dr. Novak standing in the wings, giving her a thumbs up. The final performer took the stage, but Anna hardly registered the music. She was still floating on the feeling of connection she had experienced while playing. The sense that she had finally, after years of running away, come home to herself. After the concert ended and the audience began to disperse, Anna found herself surrounded by well-wishers. Restaurant regulars expressing amazement, fellow performers offering congratulations, even strangers moved to introduce themselves. That was extraordinary, Mrs. Chen said, clasping Anna's hands in her own. Like hearing the moonlight itself. Mr. Bellini appeared with the bouquet of roses. I always knew you had it in you, he said, his voice gruff with emotion. From that very first night, Diane hugged her tightly. You have to keep playing, she insisted. Promise me you won't stop again. Before Anna could respond, Professor Rivera approached, accompanied by Dr. Novak. We have a proposition for you, Dr. Novak said, his eyes bright with excitement. The college is looking for a part-time piano instructor for beginning students. Just a few hours a week. Professor Rivera suggested you might be interested. Anna stared at them in surprise. Me? But I don't have a degree. I haven't played seriously in years. You have something more important than credentials, Professor Rivera interrupted. You have the ability to communicate through music. That can't be taught. Think about it, Dr. Novak urged. No pressure. But the position is yours if you want it. As they moved away to speak with other performers, Anna stood still in the midst of the dispersing crowd, the roses clutched in one hand, her mother's bracelet gleaming on her wrist. A teacher, not a concert pianist as she had once dreamed, but someone who could help others discover the joy of music. Someone who understood both the technical challenges and the emotional rewards. Someone who knew what it meant to lose music and find it again. For the first time in years, Anna allowed herself to imagine a future that included what she loved most. Not exactly the future she had once planned, but perhaps one that was even more meaningful for all she had experienced. 6 months had passed since the charity concert, and Anna's life had transformed in ways she could never have imagined. She still worked at Bellini's 4 days a week, but now she also taught piano at the community college on Mondays and Wednesdays. Her first class of beginners had just completed their term, culminating in a small recital that had filled her with more pride than any of her own performances ever had. The late afternoon sun slanted through the windows of Bellini's as Anna wiped down tables before the dinner rush. The restaurant had changed too. The piano, once merely decorative, now occupied a place of honor near the center of the dining room. A small brass plaque on its side read, "Music gives soul to the universe. Wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything." Plato. Busy tonight, Mr. Bellini commented as he emerged from the kitchen checking the reservation list. The weekend crowd is coming in early. Anna nodded, glancing at the piano. Should I play the first set around 6? This was another change. Anna now played regularly at the restaurant, usually for an hour before her shift began, and sometimes during dinner service. It had started informally after the concert, with Mr. Bellini asking if she might play occasionally for the customers. Now it was a fixture, something that distinguished Bellini's from other restaurants in town. Some patrons even requested specific tables near the piano when they made reservations. Perfect, Mr. Bellini agreed. The Richards party is coming in at 6:15. They specifically asked if you would be playing. Anna smiled, still somewhat amazed that people came to hear her play, not just to eat good Italian food, but to listen to her music. The front door opened, and Anna looked up to see Dr. Novak entering, accompanied by a slender woman she didn't recognize. "Anna," Dr. Novak called out warmly. "Just the person we were hoping to find. Do you have a moment?" Anna set aside her cleaning cloth and approached them. Dr. Novak introduced the woman as Eliza Wong, the director of the Regional Symphony Orchestra. Ms. Wong attended the faculty recital last month, Dr. Novak explained. She was quite taken with your performance of the Chopin Nocturne. Anna had begun performing more regularly since the charity concert, gradually rebuilding her repertoire and her confidence. The faculty recital had been her most ambitious program yet, featuring a complete set of Chopin's nocturnes. You play with remarkable sensitivity, Ms. Wong said, her voice warm but professional, especially for someone who took such a long break from performance. Thank you, Anna replied, unsure where this conversation was heading. Ms. Wong glanced around the restaurant, then continued. Our orchestra is planning a special concert series for next season, Hidden Gems. The idea is to feature talented musicians who, for whatever reason, aren't widely known yet. Dr. Novak suggested you might be interested in being one of our soloists. Anna stared at her in disbelief. Me? With the regional symphony? We would feature you in Debussy's Suite Bergamasque, which includes your Clair de Lune, of course, and perhaps a Mozart concerto, if you're comfortable with that. Anna's mind raced. Playing with an orchestra would be a major step, far beyond the small recitals she had been doing. Could she handle it? Did she even want to return to that level of performance? I don't know what to say, she admitted. Ms. Wong smiled. You don't need to decide right now. Take some time to think about it. We would begin rehearsals in January with the performance in March. She handed Anna a business card. Call me when you've made a decision. After they left, Anna stood holding the card, her thoughts in turmoil. Mr. Bellini approached, having overheard part of the conversation. The regional symphony, he said, impressed. That's quite an honor. Anna nodded absently. It is, but I don't know if I'm ready for something like that. Mr. Bellini studied her face. What are you afraid of? The question caught her off guard. I'm not afraid, she said automatically, then reconsidered. Well, maybe I am. It's been so long since I performed at that level, and balancing teaching and working here already keeps me busy. True, Mr. Bellini acknowledged, but I've never seen you as happy as when you're playing. Not just here, but in those recitals at the college. He gestured toward the piano. That's where you truly come alive. Before Anna could respond, the door opened again and the evening's first customers arrived. The conversation would have to wait. As the restaurant filled with the dinner crowd, Anna found herself watching the clock, anticipating her usual playing time. At 5 minutes to 6, she washed her hands in the kitchen sink, dried them carefully, and walked to the piano. There was a small ripple of recognition as she sat down, regular customers nudging their companions, conversations pausing momentarily. Anna no longer felt self-conscious about this attention. Instead, she felt a quiet pride in being known not just as a waitress, but as a musician. She began with a Bach prelude, its intricate patterns requiring just enough concentration to quiet her still racing thoughts about Ms. Wong's offer. The music flowed from her fingers with practiced ease, filling the restaurant with its orderly beauty. As she transitioned into a Schubert impromptu, Anna found herself thinking about how far she had come in 6 months. From hiding her musical past to embracing it, from believing that her dreams were over to discovering new ones, from merely existing to truly living again. Would accepting the symphony's offer be another step in that journey? Or would it take her back to a path she had deliberately left behind? Anna finished her set with Clair de Lune, now something of a signature piece for her, and was met with warm applause from the diners. As she stood and gave a small bow, she noticed Diane entering the restaurant, accompanied by Luis, the piano technician who had restored Bellini's Steinway. They had been dating for several months now, brought together by their shared connection to Anna and the piano. Perfect timing, Anna said as she approached them. Your table's ready, Diane grinned. We timed it that way on purpose. Luis wanted to hear you play. As Anna led them to their table, Diane asked, Was that Dr. Novak I saw leaving earlier? With some fancy-looking woman? Anna nodded, then hesitated before sharing the news. She's the director of the regional symphony. They want me to perform with them. As a featured soloist, Diane's eyes widened. Anna, that's amazing. It's a big commitment, Anna said. I'm not sure if I should accept. Luis looked up from the menu. Why wouldn't you? It's a great opportunity, Anna sighed. I left that world for a reason. The pressure, the expectations, it wasn't good for me. I'm happy with my life now. Teaching, playing here. It's enough, is it? Diane asked gently. Or are you just afraid of wanting more? The question hit home, echoing Professor Rivera's observation months ago. Was she still holding back, still protecting herself from fully embracing her gift? Anna was saved from answering by the arrival of the Richards party, who immediately began asking about her next selection of pieces. As she took their drink orders, she promised to play something special during her next set. Throughout her shift, Anna's mind kept returning to Ms. Wong's offer. By the time the dinner rush had subsided, she had made her decision. During her break, she slipped outside and called the number on the business card. "Ms. Wong, this is Anna Sokolova. About your offer." She took a deep breath. "I'd like to accept, but with one condition. I want to play Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto instead of the Mozart." It was an audacious request. The Rachmaninoff was notoriously difficult, one of the most challenging pieces in the piano repertoire. Anna had studied it at Eastman but had never performed it publicly. It had always represented to her the height of what a pianist could achieve, technical brilliance combined with profound emotional expression. There was a pause on the other end of the line. "That's a significant change to the program," Ms. Wong said carefully. "May I ask why?" Anna looked through the restaurant window, where she could see Mr. Bellini chatting with customers, Diane and Luis laughing together at their table, the Chens enjoying their weekly dinner. All these people who had supported her, believed in her, helped her find her way back to music. "Because it's time for me to stop playing it safe," she said. "If I'm going to do this, I want to really do it. All the way." After another moment of silence, Ms. Wong's voice came back, warmer now. "I admire your ambition, Ms. Sokolova. Let's discuss the details next week. Can you come to my office on Monday?" When Anna returned inside, she felt lighter somehow, as if a decision had been made that had been waiting to be made for years. She approached the piano for her second set of the evening with a new energy. Mr. Bellini caught her eye and raised an eyebrow questioningly. Anna gave him a small nod and a smile. His face broke into a broad grin and he raised his water glass to her in a silent toast. This time, Anna chose to play something she hadn't performed at Bellini's before, the first movement of the Rachmaninoff Concerto, adapted for solo piano. It would be challenging without an orchestra, but she wanted to begin preparing, to feel the piece under her fingers again. As the powerful opening chords resonated through the restaurant, conversations paused. Anna lost herself in the music, in its sweeping emotions and technical demands. This was not background music for dining. This was a statement, a declaration of intent. When she reached the movement's conclusion, the restaurant erupted in the most enthusiastic applause she had ever received there. Anna stood flushed with exertion and pleasure and bowed. "What was that?" one of the Richards party asked, clearly impressed. "I've never heard you play anything like that here before." "Something new I'm working on," Anna replied with a smile. "Something challenging." Later that night, after the last customers had gone and the cleaning was done, Anna found herself alone at the piano once more. The restaurant was quiet except for the distant sounds of the kitchen staff finishing their work. She played a few notes softly, thinking about the path that had brought her to this moment. 3 years ago, she had believed that her life as a musician was over. She had packed away that part of herself along with her mother's ashes and her old music scores, considering it a closed chapter. But music, it seemed, had not been finished with her. Anna reached into her pocket and pulled out the small brass key Mr. Bellini had given her months ago, the key to the restaurant's front door, allowing her to come practice whenever she wanted. Next to it was her mother's bracelet with the tiny piano charm, which she now wore every day. 2 small objects that represented so much. The past she had thought lost to her, and the future she was now creating. Not the future she had once imagined as a young conservatory student, but something richer, more nuanced, shaped by both loss and recovery. As Anna gathered her things to leave, she ran her fingers one last time over the piano keys, a gesture that had become something of a ritual for her. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, planning her teaching schedule around symphony rehearsals, expanding her practice routine, balancing all the different parts of her life. But for now, in this quiet moment, Anna simply felt grateful for second chances, for unexpected paths, for the courage to begin again, and most of all for the music that had never truly left her, even when she thought she had left it behind.